Hey, what is up, guys? It has been almost a year since I posted last, so I kind of figured I would sit down and just kind of talk for a while. Not actually something I'm used to doing. Normally there's just like me talking about gameplay and stuff like that. But today we're actually going to talk about some things that have been influential in my life in regards to just certain aspects. For instance, what you're seeing in the background now is some footage from a dungeon run in World of Warcraft Legion. I'm just currently gearing up my Death Knight, kind of looking forward to the next expansion and trying to figure out like what class I want to main. So I'm just gonna sit here and talk for a while. And this is really the one thing that I at least have been wanting to talk about the most in a long time, especially in regards to things that have been influential to me, and that's just Warcraft in general. Going all the way back to 2002 when Reign of Chaos came out, my dad had bought the original game, and he also got the expansion, Frozen Throne, a year later. Um, I was a little too young at the time to really fully grasp and understand what the real-time strategy genre really was. I was 10 when the first game came out, which, I mean, I could play it, but I could never really understand it. It was something that was like, man, this is neat. I know the basics of what I'm doing, but I wasn't one of those people that could sit there and micro everything, like throw down buildings with hotkeys and stuff like that, and assign minions to be produced with hotkeys and all that fun jazz. I knew that hitting certain icons meant I was going to get certain things, and that was about it. Um, and then the aspect of online came in, which were custom games, which introduced the original Dota, which a lot of people just know it as what Steam owns now. I played not necessarily the original, but one of the rehashes a while back. So, well, not original rehash. I digress. Okay, moving on from that point since I screwed up royally. Um, Blizzard has always been the one company in my mind that has made things that I'm used to playing. When the original Diablo came out, the graphics were so just abysmally bad compared to what we're used to seeing now that as a young child, after even having my dad played it, he kind of was my test for all games when I was younger. He would play games and he would pretty much just let me play him if he felt it was suitable for me. So I was playing the original Diablo at a very young age because the graphics weren't very bloody. Sure, there were corpses and stuff like that on the ground, um, but it wasn't what we're used to seeing these days, where everything can get pretty visceral and disgusting. Everything was pretty calm for the most part back then, and that's one of my fondest memories, actually, just sitting there. I never really made it past the butcher, really. I would kill him, and then I'd get lost from there. My dad actually beat the game, and he told me all about it. I'm like, that is so cool, because little baby me was like, that's neat, Dad. I'm happy for you, and I was so jealous. But I digress. So, from moving forward from Warcraft, at least the RTS, about the time the Burning Crusade came along, I wanted to get into it, but I was one of those kids that my parents wouldn't fork over the money. I say that like it's a negative thing. They wouldn't pay the monthly fee for me to be able to play World of Warcraft on a subscription. So this is me being honest here for a second. I played on Private Realms for a good portion of my WoW days, and I switched over about Kata. I didn't really play much of Wrath, to be quite honest. Um, but yeah, I digress. Moving forward. And that brings us to World of Warcraft. Definitely, probably one of the most influential games I've ever played. Um, I've built some really, not necessarily long lasting per se, because I don't necessarily keep in contact with those people anymore. But definitely, there were some people that I met along the way that really just made life enjoyable. I remember playing in college. I was on a Catarome at the time, and I would come back to my room and just kind of hang out with the people that were usually always on, college students or younger like me, and we just kind of hang out and talk about our days. We'd raid, and I developed a really close relationship with a couple, especially one of the leaders in that group, and it was just cool to see that um, people from such different backgrounds could become close. And I know that's really cliche to say. I mean, that's just basically what happens these days with gaming. You meet those people that you just become really close to, and that's just kind of how like major friendship starts. I mean, um, a lot of Blizzard like common or not commentaries, documentaries are like, this is our community. We've had marriages happen through people that met in game, relationships form, that kind of thing. It's really just the community side of things. But in the grand scheme of things, I feel like in terms of not necessarily games I've put the most time into, um, definitely just in terms of like overall arcing time frame, all the pretty much the Pokemon games up until recently when I actually quit playing Pokemon, which that's a story for another video. Um, I really just spent so much time playing World of Warcraft just throughout the past maybe decade, intensely at least, minus maybe some breaks here and there, relationships that took up more time than I had to play games, stuff like that. But definitely, it's something that I'm I hope, at least for the life of me, that they're memories that I can carry on through the rest of my life. Because while granted, um, I have sunk way more time than I would ever like to admit into this game. That's something I don't know if I'll ever be willing to openly talk about, probably. Because I was one of those college kids that was, if I wasn't doing homework or I wasn't in class, I was pretty much playing video games. That's pretty much my college experience, minus sometimes here and there. But it's really just something that, um, at least for me, is a huge impact in terms of how I view video games. Because let's face it, my generation, I was born in '92. I just turned 26 a couple weeks ago. We've all been very spoiled, per se, in terms of what we have in terms of video games. Um, we grew up in pretty much the greatest time frame in terms of developing video games, graphics. Graphics have gone from squares to almost lifelike sometimes. It's kind of crazy to think about how we've come so far in terms of graphical capabilities. And you know, I feel like up until now we've kind of taken that for granted. I mean, it's just kind of something we're so used to because in my time in my life, we've watched computers go from these big hulking towers of just servers and stuff like that to pretty much the 2.5 by 6 inch squares that we all carry around in our pocket, and you just heard my phone close because that's what I'm talking about. Um, we've seen so many things develop in terms of where we've come and where we've been, um, and the sky's still the limit. There's still a lot to do in terms of like what we're gonna see from developing games and developers and stuff like that. I do feel like the gaming developing games, sorry, has been something that's slowed down over the past year and a half or so. Ever since Assassin's Creed went and started taking longer to develop in between, other than Call of Duty, I think they're always going to abide by their yearly game just because they've got 3 different studios. Um, I feel like gaming is slowing down a little bit, which I'm completely and totally okay with because at that point we're going to start getting better quality games and we're not going to have such a flooded market, such a saturated market with just all these games that are good, they're okay, but they're not great like gaming used to be. I'm not saying gaming is bad now. The game that footage is going right now is one of the longest running games I can think of off the top of my head that's been such a juggernaut. And I think it's pretty much going to stay that way until the developers of Blizzard really just decide to axe it. Everyone's always like, oh, WoW's going to kill itself. I don't think that's the case. I think we're just going to hit a point where Blizzard's like, all right, this has been a fun run, and they're just going to call it that. I, I don't necessarily mind. I'm going to be sad when that day comes just because, I mean, WoW's been such a big part of my life. I've been playing it since I was a kid, and just seeing myself grow up and just the memories I have and learn in terms of like learning the game and just being not necessarily more intense per se, but more or less just fully understanding like what intense like feelings and thoughts and just not necessarily skill per se, but like motor functions and stuff like that. Gaming takes these days. It's insane. It's absurd. I've got a Logitech G60 gaming mouse that's got the little number pad on the side, just so I'm hitting my rotations correctly in World of Warcraft. It's insane how far we've come, and I just kind of wanted to take some time and talk about that. I hope like the story of where I've come from in terms of gaming and all that kind of stuff kind of resonates with you guys. If so, that's awesome. If not, that's fine. We've all had different experiences in life, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Well, looking at the time, I'm hitting pretty much to the end of the video, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and sign off. I thank you guys so much for watching. If this works out well, I'm going to start uploading more regularly. So, yeah, thanks for all for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys, hopefully, in the next video. Bye.